In this video, we'll be coding Minecraft Block Shuffle by Dream. This is an awesome plugin, but it is complex, so make sure you've watched all of my other tutorials first. And if you'd like to bypass the coding entirely, you can head over to my Patreon and gain access to all my plugins from there, link in the description. And as always, remember to subscribe to my channel to get notified about new tutorials and other videos, and leave a like if this video helps you. Alright, so let's start off quickly with this. I've set up everything, all the files that we need. You can see the chain of files that we have here. We have our plugin, we have our spigot reference. It can be any version that you want. We have our main file, we have a listener and a listeners folder, and then we have a start command and a stop command in the commands folder. Let's head over and we can start looking at our actual files. Looking at plugin.yml. I have everything written out here. It's pretty straightforward. We have the name, the version. The only difference, and this is very important for this plugin, you need to have this API version. Because we're working with the list of every single material that has ever been in Minecraft and we don't want to use certain ones that aren't in the game anymore, we have to ensure that we have this API version. And since I'm using Spigot 1.15.2, my API version is 1.5. If you have a 1.16.4, 1.16.1 server, then you would do 1.16 there. Other than that, everything is the same, just like usual for the plugin.yml. So let's move on to the main file. This is also very similar to what we normally have for our main file. Just our main constructor with this onEnable method, and then we have our constructors for our 3 different custom methods, 2 commands and 1 listener. The only thing special for this is that we have a public global hash map. And if you don't know what a hash map is, you don't really worry about it, I guess. You can learn about it if you want to know more about coding, but it's basically a pair that has, so we're gonna have a string and a material. And in our case, we're going to have a string that is a player's name, and then the material is the material that they are looking for. And so, since we are constructing this in our overall main plugin, we can use it throughout all of these as we go along throughout our coding. So that's it for the main file. Now we're on to the stop command. This is also pretty straightforward. You can just copy down this exactly. You might have to import some things. So be wary of that, but we've gone through this before. We've had similar stop commands in other plugins, and they followed the same thing. The only thing that I added was a message that tells everybody on the server that you're stopping the game manually. And this line right here is what actually stops the whole plugin. So once you do that, the plugin ends. So if you ever need to stop the game for whatever reason, you can just do /stop_bs, and that's it. So now we are on to the actual coding part. To be able to tell when a player is standing on the block that they're supposed to be looking for, we need a listener, and we're going to be using a player move event. So every time a player moves, we're going to check to see if the block they're standing on is the block that they're supposed to be looking for. So this is pretty straightforward. As always, we're going to start with our player p equals e.getPlayer, and we are going to import player. Then we're going to do material p mat. So this is going to be the material that the player is looking for, and we're going to do this.plugin. So this is going to allow us to access the stuff from our main file, and we're going to do the pl map, which is the hash map that we are using in our main file. And then we can say .get. So this is a method, and it's going to get the material for a specified name. So we're going to do p.getName. So this gets their name, and now this line will give us the material that they're supposed to be looking for. We can do import material, but you want to make sure that you're going from bucket. We're going to do another material. This is going to be bmat, and this is the actual block that they're standing on. And this is going to be e.get2. So this is the block that they're going to when they move. It doesn't really matter if you do get from or get to. And then we're going to do clone. So this is just going to clone the location. Then we do subtract. We're going to do 0, 1, 0. So this is going to subtract 1 from the location of the player's location. So basically it's just going to get the block underneath the player. So that's a location, so we need to get block, and then we need to get the type. And that will give us the material of the block that is under the player. And now all we have to do is compare the two. So we do b mat.equals, because you can't do equals equals for materials. You have to do this dot equals parameter, and we're just going to check if it equals pmat. And that is it for checking. And then all we have to do, so this runs when the person is standing on the block that they are looking for. So we do this dot plugin dot pl map, again looking at our hash map that's holding all of our values. So now that we know that the player has touched the correct block, we're going to set the material that they're looking for to null. And I will explain why we do this later on when we're coding the start.bs command. But for now, just know that we're setting it to null once they find the correct block. And then we also want to tell them that they found the correct block, just so they know that they can stop looking for it. So we're just going to broadcast message to everybody, just to let everybody know that whoever found whatever block they were looking for. Build some tension if people haven't found their block yet. It would say Blackjack found, and then we're going to have another plus, and this one is going to be mat.name. Pretty simple. You can pause the screen here and copy it down, make sure everything looks good. The real tricky bit comes around here, and this is where things start to get a little bit more complicated, because we are going to be using a nested runnable like we have done before. It's just something that is a little bit more tricky and hard to kind of get your head around. So if you don't understand anything about this coding, then probably the best thing is just copy down as I go. We are in our command, so we're going to do player p equals player sender. Just like every single command that we've ever written on this channel, we start by doing that. Then we want to get our scheduler. So we are going to do bucket scheduler schedule, and then p.get server dot get scheduler. And now we have our scheduler, and we're going to use that to make our runnables in a little bit. The next thing that we're going to need is our list or array of materials. So I'm just going to call that mats, and it's pretty straightforward how you do this. You just do materials.values, and now you have every single material in Minecraft in an array that you can use. And finally, before we start the real coding, we just want to have a random number generator. And so this is something that is through Java. So when you import this, you will import the Java util. It's not through Bucket. I've already imported a lot of stuff that we already need, but you can see that this is Java along with the map. Okay, and the way that we are going to do this is by running the command like start.bs, and then we're going to have names. And so you can have more than 2 people playing this. You can have 1 person playing this. You can have 5 people playing this. It doesn't matter. We want to be able to run this command like this and have the game work. What we're going to do is start with a for loop. We're going to say for int I equals 0, while I is less than args.length I++. So what this is doing is we have our args, which is an array of all these values. So args0 would be this value, my name, args1 would be this value, and args2 is that value. we can add all of these players to our hash map that we have from before. So when we do that, we do this.plugin.plmap.put. So this put method allows you to put a value into our hash map. And so we just want to put the names of the players and the value of null to start off. So it's going to go through every player and add them to this hash map with a value of null associated with their material that they're supposed to be looking for. And we'll give them a material later when we start the actual program. So I've just added a little message there, so it says that the game is starting. And so that's just a good thing to say, and let people know that the game is actually starting. And we can start setting up our runnables. So we're going to schedule a synchronous repeating task. And we're going to do this.plugin. Our arg2 is our runnable. So we do new runnable, and then that and that. And that's the best way to do that. And then we want this to start immediately, so 0L. And then we want it to happen every 5 minutes. So that's what Dream did. And as we've talked about before, 1 second is 20 ticks. So 5 minutes is 6,000 ticks. And to get our runnable to operate, we need to do an @override and a public void run. But we need a nested runnable. So we're just going to set that up now. We also need to be able to cancel our nested runnable like we've been doing in the past. So we're going to just initiate task 1, and then we're going to go task 1 equals schedule synchronous repeating. And this time on the inner runnable, we only need to say plugin. We don't need this.plugin. But we do the same for the rest. We do new runnable that. We want this to start immediately. And we are going to do a 1 second or 20 tick delay. And then again, we do the same thing here. @override public void run. So now we are all set up to start typing away with our program. We do this nested runnable so we can set up a countdown. So now we're going to write the countdown. So we go into the innermost runnable and we do if count equals 0, then that, else this. So now we need a value of count, so we do int count, and we're just going to count down from 20. So I will say count equals 20. And so every time we go through this runnable, which happens every 1 second, we want to reduce the number by 1. And we have done this before. So we want to count down, so we want to have this appear on screen. So we're going to have it send a message, and we do integer because we want to change our integer from an integer to a string. And we're going to do count minus minus. And so now what's going to happen is when we start this, it's going to start at 20. Count will not equal 0, so it's going to go to here. It's going to broadcast our number and then subtract 1 from it. And it's going to do that over and over until it gets to 0. Once it gets to 0, we're going to have our actual function start. But then we also, at the end, want it to cancel our task 1. So now we're done with setting up our runnables, and all we have to do now is actually just code the plugin. So the first thing that happens once the timer runs out, we want to check if the player has found their block. And if we go back and we look at our listener, we know that when the player finds their block, the material that they're looking for gets changed to null. So to be able to tell if somebody has found their block, it means that their material should be null. So we want to look through our hash map for every single person. So this is kind of a more Java intensive thing. But if you don't know much about Java, then the easiest way is just kind of copy this down. Okay, so what this is doing is it's looking at our hash map it's getting all of the entries and putting them into a set. So now we are able to look at each entry in that set, and we can just refer to each entry as entry when we're looking at it. So this is kind of a cool way to do a for loop. And like I said earlier, we can tell if somebody has found their material because their material in the hash map will be null. We can do entry.getValue, because that's where the material is stored. And we can say if this does not equal null, that means they haven't found their block yet. So what we can do is say p.getServer.broadcastMessage. So we're basically just going to say the game is over. Entry.key, which is the player's name, could not find their block. And then we want it to as well just cancel all the tasks and end the plugin. So we do cancel tasks in plugin. And the next thing that we have to do is make a boolean. So this is like true or false. And we're going to say end equals false. And we're going to use this to represent an if statement that's going to tell us if we want to end our plugin. We want to end our plugin when this happens. It's going to cancel all the tasks, but it's going to keep running through this iteration of the runnable. But we don't want it to do any more of that, so we're going to set end equals true once we find something that has ended the game. Alright, so now we know that we want to end the game if that happens. But if the game does not end, we still want to do some other stuff. So we do an if statement here, and everything inside this if statement will happen not end. So it's going to say if not the end, then do this. So whenever end is false, it's going to do this. So we're starting end with false, so it's going to do this block until we want to end the game and end becomes true. So when the game is not over, we want to select a random material to give to the player. Because when we have this for loop going, we're looking at an individual player, and then we've already checked to see that they have found their correct block, and their current value is null. So we want to give them a new random block that they want to find. So we're going to do mat equals mats and rand.next int mats.length -1. I don't know if you have to do -1. I'm not really sure where int, is it inclusive or exclusive, but I just do -1 just to make sure that it doesn't go outside of the bounds of the mats. And we actually have to define our mat material here. So I just do material mat up with our boolean and count. So now we've picked a random material from the list of every material in Minecraft. But some of those materials include things that you can't stand on, like steak or other items like that. So we have to make sure that it's actually a block that you can stand on. So we are going to do a while loop, and then we are going to say while mat.isSolid, but we want to do it while it is not solid. So we're going to select a random material, and if the material is not solid, we're just going to repeat this. So it's going to keep repeating this while loop until it finds a block that is solid. So we know that that's going to work. But unfortunately, that does not cover all the bases for this. And there are some other blocks that do get through, and some that are just kind of difficult to find early on and within 5 minutes, like stuff in the end and other things like that. So I have a few other things that I'm just going to add to here, and you can see all I'm doing is an or, and then if the material's name contains shulker, then it's going to keep looking for a new material. And banner, door, command, so that would be like a command block, which you can't get. Dead, there was like dead coral, I'm not really sure about that, but I just left it in there. Diamond block, emerald block, end stuff, gold block, lapis block, and then some like player heads and mob heads. So that's just stuff that I think is a little bit too challenging to find in 5 minutes to make it like a fair game. So I just took that out, and I'll leave this in the description so you guys can just copy and paste that if you want. Alright, so once we get out of this while loop, we know that we have a material that we're going to use. And do plmap.replace because we want to replace the value that is already in the hash map. So we're going to do replace and then entry.getKey, which is the player's name and our key that we're using. And then we're going to want to replace null with our mat. And once we assign a player a new material, we're going to want to tell them. So we have to do p.getServer get player, and then we do entry.getKey. So that's going to find the actual player from their player name, and then we're going to send them a message. And I'm just going to copy the message that I have right now just to save time. So this message is, you have 5 minutes to find, and then the material that they're looking for. And that completes everything for this plugin. Once you finish this, you are completely done. You can export this and you are good to go. So yeah, that's everything. And I will hop into Minecraft real quick just to showcase the plugin. So stay tuned for that. Alright, so we just hopped into Minecraft and let's test out the plugin. So all we have to do is type /start BS and then our name, and the game starts, and we start counting down from 20, and when the timer hits 0, it will give us a block to go chase. And there we go, we just got our first block. Acacia slab is what we have to find. And I've shortened this down to just 1 minute for me to test. So I'm gonna try and get this block really quick. Let's see how fast I can get it. Wow, that was pretty crazy. So now, when I walk on this block, it will say, hey, congrats, you found your block. And it does. I think maybe for slabs, that might be something else that we want to add to our no-go list. I just found that out. It looks like you have to be exactly within like the block height of an actual block, so standing on a slab might not be the best. So just make sure if you do keep slabs in, then you take care of that. But it looks like we're about to get another block since we did find our previous block, and our new block is a redstone lamp. Very cool. But unfortunately I won't be able to find this redstone lamp, so oh no, the clock, it's running down. I can't find my redstone lamp. Oh no, the game is over. So I guess there are some changes I could make to this. If you're playing with more than one person, which you can do, maybe you do something where it eliminates one of the people, like so. Since I couldn't find my block, it eliminates me, but the 2 other people can keep playing. There's a lot of stuff you can do with this to make it your own, make it creative. Maybe play sounds whenever you find your block, make it play sounds when somebody gets eliminated or loses or the game ends, something like that. And just to kind of test it, I don't think it's really going to do anything, but you can always just do that as well if you want to stop the game midway through. That's it for today. A very highly requested game mode. It's very fun too to play with friends. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. Hopefully it helped you out. If you want me to do any other tutorials on any other type of plugins, even if it's just something you come up with on your own and you want me to kind of figure out how to do it, I can do that. So leave a comment down below. Make sure to subscribe because I'm going to be making more videos like this, and I will see you in the next one.